asked the tax collector. He asked the fisherman, nobody from the seminary. He asked fishermen to come in and pray, help him pray at the greatest trial of his life. Isn't that amazing? Have you ever tried something that you thought was going to work in your own timing, in your own way, and then you came up empty? It just didn't prove to do what you thought that it was going to do. And isn't it amazing, though, that here Jesus fed a multitude. He sat down on Peter's boat and taught the multitude. He sat down and fed the multitude, then sent Peter, James, and John out to get what would feed the multitude. He fed the multitude, then sent Peter, James, and John to get what they could then use to feed the multitude. Jesus gave them the word, then he gave Peter, James, and John a word, a rhema word. And then they went out on that rhema word. And see, the great thing about it, if you ever get a word from God, Mark chapter 16 and verse 20 says that he confirms his word with signs following. Confirming the word with signs following. Signs following. And so Jesus now sends them to get what would feed others. Isn't it amazing that Jesus could sit down? Because the greatest teachers are not the ones that stand and teach. They're the ones that would sit and teach. Real power is measured from a seat, not from where you stand, but where you sit. God rules from a throne. A throne is a seat. A king in the earth rules from a throne. When you have a seat in Congress, it's a seat in Congress. You have a seat in Britain. You have a seat in Parliament. Power flows from a seat. And you can take some different postures with the seat. You could get the seat and stand on the seat to be seen and use the seat as a platform. And it can elevate you and you can project your message from it. Or I could sit in the seat and let the seat be a place from which I make great decisions and do great thinking. Or when I'm in a place of derision and I don't know which way to go, then I'll take the same seat and use it as a place to kneel. And there's sometimes you have to learn to use the seat in its three different positions. Sometimes you stand on it, sometimes you sit in it, and sometimes you kneel at it. You have to know how to use the power of the seat. And God will be able to then cause you to be able to stand, and having done all, to stand. Isn't it interesting that Jesus got these young fishermen's attention? He got their attention. And even before they understood all of the places that they were going to go, after he talked to them and sent them out, then he gave them a command and said, follow me, follow me, follow me. And they agreed to follow him, not knowing who this dude was. But this is a leadership principle that it's called the law of buy-in. And the law of buy-in says that you buy into the leader before you buy into his vision. They bought into Jesus. And they're like, we don't need to know where we're going. We trust you. You don't have to know where you're going when you're walking with the one who is the way. This is the law of buy-in. They bought into the leader before they bought into the vision. They didn't know where they were going. Jesus just said, follow me. They followed him because they bought into him. Because he gave them a word. And that word proved true, and it caused them to be able to trust him. It caused buy-in. Not buy into what he said, but buy into who he was. Because you are only as good as your word. So he had given them a word that came to pass. A word that came to pass. And so they had buy-in. And so this trio here, Peter, James, and John. But here's the deal. You cannot, in a situation here, they're here with empty nets. They don't understand. We got the boat. We know the fishing industry. We went out at the right time and we still came up empty. And here's the problem. You cannot reconcile what you do not recognize. You cannot reconcile what you do not recognize. If a man has offended his wife